All right, how's it going, everyone? We're here with Tommy Thompson. Tommy is an amazing player with a crazy amount of skill. Um, you actually are the second person we've had who played at Indiana, and we had Brad Ring on, and you guys have kind of similar lives with the way you with your careers. It's been pretty cool. Um, not only played with Indiana in college, then he went to the Quakes, got loaned out to Sac Republic, has a really interesting story and has a really cool family. So if you could just talk to the kids kind of about your childhood up to the pros, and then tell us about you, and then we'll go from there.
Get in trouble. Yeah, what's up, guys? It's good to see everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. Finding ways to stay positive and productive during quarantine. I know it's been a challenging time, but yeah, a little bit about myself. I grew up in Sacramento. I got two older brothers and a younger sister. I'd always play soccer with my two older brothers. That was my favorite thing to do. I'd play it during recess. I'd play it after school. I'd train with my team. I'd train with Tanner's team, which is my older brother, and I'd train with Ty's team, which is my oldest brother. So I'd be training with everybody's team, just trying to play soccer as much as I could. Not necessarily because I was just laser focused, like, oh, I need to be a pro soccer player. Oh, I need to play in Division I. I need to go to this school. I wasn't like crazy defined about how I'm going to go about my soccer career, but I just wanted to play as much as possible because I knew if I played as much as possible, then I would be getting as good as I could. I think someone's on mute. That's okay. Yeah. So anyway, I played all throughout my childhood. Graduated high school in 3 years to go to Indiana. A year early. So I went there as a 17-year-old. Played one season at Indiana. We won the Big Ten Big Ten tournament, and then I was Big Ten Freshman of the Year. So after that, the Earthquakes signed me. I was 18 years old at the time. That was in 2014. So I'm on my 7th year at the Quakes. I'm 24 years old, and yeah, I've been loving it. So I'm just here to say what's up to you guys. Try to encourage you guys to keep practicing and just to keep getting better, because this is a difficult time where you can't train with your team. But the good news is with soccer, all you need is a ball and a little bit of space. So that's what I've been focusing on, is the skill work that I've been doing. And hopefully I can give you guys some ideas as well. Oh, I think you're muted there, Brando.
There we go. Sorry about that. Going back to your childhood, you said you played with your brothers a lot. Was that your main drive, just to have fun, to play with your brothers? And do you think that was what got you into soccer in the first place, or did you play because you liked it?
Yeah, it's a good question. At first I wasn't too crazy about soccer. I was actually one of the kids that when we had to do skill work, I would be like acting like I had to go to the bathroom, or I had to tie my shoe. Like, I never wanted to practice skills because I know it's not very fun. Everyone wants to be shooting on goal. Everyone wants to be, playing 5v5 scrimmages, all of that. But the skill stuff is the most important. And that's what my dad always told me. He's like, hey, you got to do this stuff. But I just wasn't that interested in it. And it wasn't until I started watching Ronaldinho and his Jogo Bonito videos where I really fell in love with the game. He started doing all these crazy tricks with the ball. I'm like, man, that's awesome. I want to learn how to do that. And so I went from like not liking skill work to then loving it. And it was all I wanted to do. Because I wanted to learn how to dribble like Ronaldinho. I wanted to learn how to do tricks like Ronaldinho. So I'd say that was where I really fell in love with it. And I think having a soccer family, like my dad played in the Olympics in 1984. He was the first round draft pick out of Indiana, won Indiana their first national championship. He's got a crazy story as well. So it's the love of soccer has been in my family now through my dad, and then now with my brothers. So I'd say that was a driver to where I just love playing with them. I love spending time with my family. It was basically like I was raised on a soccer field. But I didn't really fall in love with it until I was around 12 or 13 years old, and that came with Ronaldinho and those Jogo Bonito videos.
I really want to get into your family, but I want to get to that in a little bit. Talking about Ronaldinho and when you fell in love with those videos. I remember those videos. Those videos were amazing. I love those Brazil teams. How old were you when you saw that, and what about it was it that you're like, wow, this is what I need to like start working on?
It was it was just cool. Like Ronaldinho just made soccer cool. He had a big smile on his face all the time. I was like, man, I want to be happy like this guy. I want to be able to do this soccer trick like this guy. Like this is just fun to watch. And I think sometimes in America, like soccer isn't really seen in that light, especially by football fans and basketball fans. But it is cool. Like it's amazing what guys like Neymar and Mbappe, all these guys can do. And so that's where it just really sunk into me. Like that's what I want to do. I want to be like them. And I was around like 12 years old. I'd say, maybe 11, maybe 11. And I just would go and I'd just do all of these tricks in my garage, like constantly. Because I was like, I know, one, it's going to make me a better player. And then two, I'm going to be able to do these tricks like him. I'm going to look just like him. So that's where I just really got into it. And now basically I'm trying to do that same thing. Like if I was inspired to be a pro soccer player through YouTube videos, I'm like, well, dang, maybe I should just make YouTube videos for the kids in the Bay Area. Maybe they'll be inspired to learn what I learned.
That's awesome. That's honestly, that's exactly why I'm doing this for my kids right now, is because I've been pretty lucky to have a life where I've met tons of pro soccer players and friends with a bunch of them. So it's like when I was a kid, I wish I had this. So I'm just giving them a platform where they can see it. And you brought up something really awesome that I had written down in my notes was you play with a smile on your face all the time. Like you always look like you're having fun. Even when you're pissed off, you end up having a smile on your face. Was it from Ronaldinho? Is that where that comes from, or is that just your positive personality?
It was for sure. Ronaldinho was just like that concept of like I'm a competitor. Like I'm like dead. Like I'm when it comes to soccer, like it's been my job for 7 years. So it's like people come in and like you can. I've had friends that got let go. I've had friends that had to retire. All that stuff. So to me, it's like it's serious. And that's why like I train as hard as I do. But I've just learned to I've just found a way to enjoy that training. So that's why I do it with a smile on my face. But I know if I can find a way to enjoy this grind and this practice, all of a sudden now I'm gonna be doing it more than everybody because it's not this like serious, angry, oh, I gotta be all mad all the time and I'm a tough competitor because I'm angry all the time. To me, it's like, nah, the ultimate competitor is the guy that can smile when he's like hurting. Cause like all of a sudden now he's like, I like this. Like I'm trying to push myself so hard and now I'm pushing myself. So I'm tired and I'm smiling about it. And I think that to me is the ultimate competitor. And that's what I've like tried to, and that's what Ronaldinho was. And that's why these guys are able to reach like these levels is because they enjoy the struggle. They enjoy that pain that sometimes comes. And I think that's the best mentality to have. But yeah, I just was looking this up for you guys. This is actually an example right here uh, of me as a kid. So like, I just would learn the videos uh, from the videos, all these skills. And so this is when I was like probably 13, just in my garage. And I just set up a camera. Once I got a trick, I just set up a camera. I get so excited about it. And then I get like the footage of it. And then my dad put it on YouTube like forever ago. And so that's just some of the stuff I've been doing. But yeah, it's all real. And it's exactly basically how I started to separate myself and my skills and my ball work. It started back then.
You talked about how you during training, like you push yourself. When did you? And you talked about how you've seen a bunch of your friends be let go and stuff, and you want to be that guy smiling and enjoying it and doing it more than everyone else. When did you gain that mentality? Was that when you were younger, or was that in the pros?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was I would say like to the extent it's at now, that mentality, it's been in the pros because I've been pushed to my limits. Like I've been benched for 6 months. People look at my career and they think, oh, like Tommy Thompson, 7 years with the Earthquakes, everything's been pretty good. But the reality is I've had it's like 7 head coaches. And so I've had to prove myself over and over and over again. And so I know what it takes and how difficult it is to try to have a coach from America and you got to prove yourself to him. And then all of a sudden you get a coach from Sweden and then you got to prove yourself to him. And then you get a coach from Argentina who doesn't even speak English. And it's like, oh, you got to prove yourself to him. And so I've just been pushed to my limits, and I've seen what happens to some of my friends, and I'm like, I don't want that to happen to me. And so that's where I just try to come in as prepared as I can. But like I said earlier, I think sometimes in like these documentaries and these movies, they try to make this competitor out to be like, oh, this mean person. Like, in order to win, you have to be mean and angry and serious. But it's like Matias Almeida came in and just flipped the script. He's like, hey, I want you guys to enjoy being around each other. I want you guys to love soccer. I love soccer. I'm sharing that love with you guys. It's like, enjoy it, compete harder than anybody, but at the same time, enjoy it. Try to find a way to enjoy that competition. And so that's why, like, for the past 2 years, I've came in and I've won the fitness test, where it's basically like you run till you can't run anymore. Like 2 years in a row, I've been the last person standing in that, because I try to show everybody, like, look, I'm happy, like, I'm smiling, but at the same time, like, there's a reason why I can run longer than all of you guys, because I've been working like crazy. So it's like a combination that I want to communicate to people. I'm smiling, but I'm competing. You know what I mean?
You keep hitting a bunch of points I want to talk about later. But just real quick, I always look at to see who won the beat test every year, and I didn't see who won it this last season, but you can see what's pretty awesome. I know that the last couple of years, like veterans like Chase Venus and Wando have been up there. How has that been? Is that like seeing them, someone much older, competing like crazy?
Yeah, it's inspiring. I remember, so I won it this year and the year before, but then the year before that, yeah, I think it was the year before that, Nick Lima, I think, won it. And what was incredible to me is, like, so we're running it, and guys are dropping off, guys are getting too tired. And then I'm running, I'm starting to get tired. I feel like, man, okay, this is starting to get to the point where I might have to stop. And I look over to see who's still running, and it's Shea and Wando, and then Nick Lima. And I'm like, man, Wando's 35 years old, and he's like, I'm one of the fitter guys on the team, and this guy is still running with me. Like, there's no way I'm gonna let him run farther than me. I gotta at least beat Wando. But like Shea and Wando, even though they were much older than these 22-year-old rookies coming in, all that stuff, they were standing. And it's a mentality and it's a message you want to send to the coaching staff. Like, look, I did my homework in the off season. Like, I've been working. And so that's pretty inspiring to me.
You are moving.
That's what was pretty inspiring to me, just because it's like these guys, regardless of their age, they're still pushing themselves and pushing the team.
Okay, so when you were younger, going back a little bit more, when you talked about separating yourself, were you always a good player, or were you somewhere in the middle? Like, how did you rank yourself, and when did you realize that you had something special?
Yeah, like I was never the biggest player. Like you can see in that video, like I was tiny. I'm still only 5'7", so I was never like the biggest or the strongest player. And I think a lot of times for players like that, it takes a lot of time to get noticed. So like I was cut from my state ODP team. I never made any national teams until I was with the under-20s at the World Cup, until that stuff. So I didn't get a ton of attention as a kid. But I just kept grinding. Like, I wasn't doing it for attention. I was doing it because I want to be the best I can be. And I didn't need any type of validation from the youth national coaches or anybody. I was just like, I'm just going to be the best I can be. And like, once I'm 18 years old, like, let's see where I'm at. And that's the mentality I try to communicate to young players. I think sometimes they get caught up in this idea that, oh, I need to be offered by colleges, or I need to be on this team or that team or the academy or this club team. Like, I need to be the best at all times. But it's like, it's a marathon. It's never a sprint. So if you just keep your process right, where you're improving consistently over a long period of time, that's the focus you have. And then your end goal is to play in college or play in the pros or play in high school, whatever it is. But you keep your eye on that, and that's the light at the end of the tunnel. But you just keep enjoying like the week to week team environment. That's what I focus on, and then the results come later on.
When you were younger, what do you think the difference was between the good players and the elite players? And overall, who do you think, what is the best mentality or trait that someone had at that age to move on to like become a pro or play at D1 school?
Right. I think a really important thing, like regardless of the position, is this skill work, this ball work. I don't know if you guys have seen, or if I could, if you guys search Tommy Thompson on YouTube, you'll see my YouTube channel. I posted all of the skill work I did as a kid, all of it. And to me, this was really important. I'm sorry, my mom's. Okay, one sec. Okay, but sorry about that.
It's okay.
So the skill work is super important. Because it's important for every single position. So that's why I've been able to be a starting forward, attacking mid, holding mid, winger, and outside back. I've started in all those positions in MLS because of the skill work I developed. So when you're asking what's the most important trait, to me it's like comfort with the ball. Like ball mastery is the most important because it applies to every single position. And if all of a sudden you could be comfortable with the ball as a defender, a forward, a center mid, coaches are going to want you on the field, and you can fill up these different roles. And that's the only reason why I've been able to last in MLS for so long so far, is because of my versatility. So when a coach didn't like me at forward, I'm like, all right, well, I could play winger. And then he didn't like me at winger. I'm like, all right, well, I could play holding mid. And that's all because of that ball mastery that you have to develop. And that comes from doing the skill work that I've been talking about.
So, I mean, it's funny that your mom just walked in the background, because I wanted to ask you about your family. You've had this crazy talented soccer family. Both your brothers, your dad. Was your mom ever involved? And how was she? Is she like a fan as well, or did she become a fan because of this? And how was being the youngest? Was that an advantage or disadvantage? And was there more pressure because of your family, or was it just funner?
Yeah, no, it was always just for fun. Like I said earlier, I never really put a ton of pressure on myself where I'm like, oh, I got to do this. I got to have a D1 offer at this time, or I got to be a pro by when I'm 18. I was just trying to put one foot in front of the other, for 10 years straight. And then all of a sudden it started to pay off once I was 17 years old. But there wasn't any type of pressure on us. Like my dad was incredibly gifted at like pushing us, but without pushing us too hard. He always would tell us like, hey, if I'm pushing you too hard, let me know. And like, we can just stop. Like if you don't like soccer, you don't have to play it. Like this is all up to you. So he wanted to make sure that I loved it. He wasn't trying to force it on me or anything like that. Cause he knew if I loved it, that was the way that I was going to be successful in this world, in this soccer world. And so he never pushed on anybody. But yeah, both my brothers went pro. Tanner was a 3-time All-American at Indiana University and then got drafted by Minnesota. And then Ty was the captain of Stanford when they won their first ever national championship. And then he got drafted to the Earthquakes. But they're both not playing anymore. But yeah, they're great soccer players. And like I said, we all did this skill work together. So that's why it's a proven method, like all this stuff on this YouTube channel, because it's all the stuff that got me and my brothers to where we're at today. And the best part about it is it's all stuff that you can do in quarantine. And so that's why I try to direct some kids their channel. If they're getting sick of, training on their own, or they're running out of ideas, I just want to give them a different resource to try to help to keep them improving, because it's a difficult time. But if you guys can learn how to practice on your own, this could end up being a huge gift, because that's actually one of the most important things to be doing. But yeah, here's like an example of one of the exercises I normally do. It's like here through the cones like that. It's what I call the 10-cone dribbling drill. And so there's like all different, this one's pretty tough, but it's just all different types of skill work through these cones. And like there's stuff for all levels, but this is obviously the more advanced stuff. But it's like this type of skill work that me and my brothers would always do. And so then there's a reason why that it is the clear reason why we all went pro.
So I told the kids about your YouTube page, and I think it's completely incredible. And it's cool that I think I heard you say somewhere that like you're getting like people from all over the world hit you up, especially as an American. People are like,
right,
look at you, and you're the man, right? So you talked a lot about it so far. The questions I was going to ask, but what do you think? Why? We know why you started it, but was it something that you always wanted to start? And was it like maybe like your dad or your brother brought it up to you, or was it just like, no, I'm going to do this?
Well, like for the longest time, I was just so focused on just having a career in MLS. I didn't really think about getting too much into coaching. I always did it as a hobby, but my primary goal was to prove that this system works. You know, and the only way to prove that is by playing in MLS and being successful in the soccer world. But then now that things have developed to where I've been playing MLS for 7 years, you know, and I've got over 100 appearances with the Quakes. All of a sudden, people will look at my resume and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, it looks like he actually did make it in MLS." And at that's the point that I wanted to then really start to share it. And so now it's taken a ton of time, and that's the other side of it as well, is that I've never had this amount of time to actually go in and upload all these videos and market it the way I've marketed it. But this quarantine has been the perfect opportunity to help kids understand how to train at home. And so that was why I started, was to, one, share the love of the game like Ronaldinho did with me, and then two, to give kids ideas on how they can get better. Because if kids focus on their own improvement in quarantine, this could actually end up being a huge step forward in their soccer careers. Because learning how to train on your own is one of the most important things. Like I guarantee you, almost every single player in Major League Soccer learned how to train on their own at some point. They weren't just training with their teams. Team training is great, but you also supplement that with this skill work on your own. That's where you start separating yourself. And so I'm trying to help kids understand, like, this quarantine could actually be a huge opportunity, and it can be exciting.
That's awesome, because that's exactly what we're telling our kids. And I can tell by the kids that are more focused. You talk to them and they're just like hammering it out every day. They're waking up early, going for runs, hammering out their schoolwork, and then just with the ball all day long. And others, you know, it's kind of like, oh, I was playing video games today. And we talk to them. This is how you separate yourself. Besides, even from other clubs, we've already separated ourselves from other clubs. Now you have to separate yourself from your own teammates even. Like, it's going to make you only better. So you did a great job growing up, separating yourself from everyone else. What was it like when you were signed as a first homegrown player? Once again, did you feel pressure on yourself? Was it just totally fun? Like, what was that like? You know, walk these kids through that.
Yeah, it's been a crazy ride with the Earthquakes. It was a huge blessing. You know, I'm honored to be the Quakes' first ever homegrown. You know, to be a part of the Earthquakes' history is something special. So I'm grateful for that. But it hasn't been a smooth ride. And I think, like I was saying earlier, some people look at me thinking like, oh, he's got it all figured out. Like he's played consistently. Like he's done pretty well. But if you look a little bit closer, like there's points where I was close to being cut. Like there's points where like I've already signed 3 different contracts, and I've fought for every single one of those contracts. You know, and I've been playing this is my 7th year, but that's 3 contracts that I had to fight for and prove myself with. So I'd say it's been fun. I've had incredible experiences, but it's a cutthroat environment to where like my own brother got let go. You know, like my own brother didn't make the team, and like he's in this team environment, and I'm hoping he's gonna make it in all of this, and thinking positively. But then the reality is, like, one of our coaches calls me in. He's like, "Hey, we had to let your brother go." And like that's the reality of the situation, because there's only so many spots to sit at this table, at this Quakes table, you know. And so you got to continue to improve yourself and continue to push yourself. And that's been scary sometimes, and it's been very educational and intense. So I'm grateful for all of the experiences, the good ones, the bad ones, all of that, because it shaped me. But I wouldn't say it's been completely fun all the time. But there has definitely been some amazing moments.
When I first met you, I think you had just signed, so you're like this 18-year-old kid, shaggy hair, kind of shy. But now that I see you, you're like just so full of life, so confident. Where did that confidence come about, and how did you get there?
Yes, that's a good one. You know, I had a lot of that confidence taken from me, you know, as I was trying to establish myself in MLS. You know, I always went about life in a little bit of a different way, where I like to dance, I like to play piano, I like to play guitar, like all this random stuff. But all of a sudden, once I came into the pro sports industry, it kind of felt like I had to be act a certain way or dress a certain way, all that stuff. I kind of felt like I had some social pressures on me that just kind of comes with being a pro athlete. And so it took me a while to figure it out and actually really learn how to like share my true personality, which I think is what you're talking about now. And that's what's came out more in the last couple of years. I guess the progression was just to keep learning. Because obviously, like I said some not very smart things when I was younger, and guys, I'd get made fun of for certain things, and that's fine. That was part of the learning process. So I just kept my head up and just fought through the difficult times because I always believed that there'd be a light at the end of the tunnel, and one day I'll be able to voice my opinions without getting made fun of. And then finally, I learned enough to where people are starting to listen, and that's been really fun for me to see, because now I'm like, I have a microphone that I can spread this positivity and this love for the game. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do.
Are you ever afraid when you step on the field or in moments of your life, and how do you get over that?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, there's been a couple of years where I thought, and it was obvious. I've had coaches tell me, hey, at the beginning of this year, we didn't want you. Like I wasn't sure about you. And but then this year, you proved to me that I think you could play in MLS. And that was at the end of the year. So but he didn't tell me at the beginning of the year, obviously. But that's intense, man. And I felt that. I felt that I wasn't rated, which is, what every pro athlete goes through at some point. I felt that the coach didn't like me, and I knew I had to prove myself that year. Like that was a sink or swim year. And in that exit meeting, he actually gave me a little pat on the back, which was amazing. But that year, for sure, I felt fear, because I'm like, look, I gave up everything. I gave up a full ride to Stanford University to go to IU instead to chase soccer. And so I had this crossroad where I went all in on soccer. Like I bet on myself. I'm like, I love this. I'm going for it. But, to this day, I think about what I could have done. I could be living a different life that's much more secure. But, I love it. I love soccer. And so that's what I went for. So I faced my fears of, potentially getting cut and all of that. And I just tried to just double down on myself. So whenever I felt that fear, I'd try to find a different way to improve. So it was like what I did that year was I was in the gym a lot. So I was weighing like 145 pounds. And I was like, this coach doesn't like me. Maybe it's because I'm too skinny. And so I started weighing like 160 by the end of that season. And that was because I put on so much muscle. I was able to do like, crazy push-ups, pull-ups, all that stuff. Because I'm like, look, if you don't think I could play forward or winger, I want to play holding mid then. And I was just doing anything I can to try to show value. So whenever I feel that fear, instead of just letting it put me in a paralysis, I try to take action. I'm like, all right, you guys don't think I'm good enough on the field? I'm going to become one of the stronger guys on the team pound for pound. So then maybe you'll like me then.
How do you deal with injuries? The mental side, coming back, all that stuff. The kids, I love hearing about that stuff.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I've been out for 6 months for 2 different things, my right leg and my left leg. And it's not easy. I know what it's like to be in the gym or to be on the treadmill or the stationary bike, and you're thinking, man, I got like 3 months of this, or I got 6 months of this, I got 9 months of this. And it's tough. It's tough, but you like I was saying earlier, you got to give yourself this light at the end of the tunnel. And you got to imagine being back on the team, scoring goals with your friends and winning tournaments. Whatever fond memories you had with soccer, you got to put that all the way down the line. You got to be like, that's where I want to be. That's where I'm going to be in 3 months, in 6 months. And once you focus on the positive things that are coming, then that will allow you to then put in all the work you need to put in over the course of the injury period. So it's really important to stay consistent with your rehab and your strengthening exercises, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Eventually you will be back on the field, and you want to make sure you're as ready as you can be.
Speaking of injuries, Nico asked this question. I've asked every single guy who's been on here, and everyone's loved this question. What's the difference between being an aggressive player and then taking it too far and being a dirty player?
Yeah, I think the difference is like the intention of causing harm. I think if you're going into a tackle to be aggressive and to win the ball and to maybe even send a message like, hey, I'm here to compete. Like, I'm using my body, and like you're gonna feel it. If that's your focus, no problem. But if all of a sudden you're going in like, oh, I want to hurt this guy, like I want to raise my studs to try to twist an ankle or something like that, that's where all of a sudden, to me, that's crossing the line, because I think there's, unwritten rules in soccer and written ones. But I think the difference is like you play as hard as you can, but you're never trying to hurt anybody.
Do you ever remember being in a situation where you were like close to crossing that line or like around that line, and how you dealt with it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's times where, my career's on the line. Like I said, like my job, like the way I make money, the way I put food on my own table, all that is on the line. And so when someone tries to get in the way of it, sometimes some serious emotions rise up. But I would say I'm pretty good at handling those emotions. But there's been a couple times where I start struggling to stay in control. And I think last year there was something that happened in a game where I was sent off. It was unintentional, but I was sent off, and it was so emotional where I got the red card, and it was just like one of the most important games of the season, and that's where I just lost it. And I mean, I was already off the field, but like just like the emotions totally just overwhelmed me, and it was just like I was just like just completely out of control. And so I get sometimes people have that on the field, and I think that's why they do some of the crazy things that you've seen. So I kind of see that mentality that people get in, but fortunately, like that's never happened while I'm still playing. I just go out and do something wild like that.
So we talked about your training habits, as in the things that you did, all the skills that you worked on. What about like intensity wise? Well, how do you think when you were younger, where did you not where do you how do you think you were, and how do you think you progressed with your intensity and focus? Because focus is a big deal and a big question for a lot of these players.
Right. So if you guys, that intensity is very important. Like you practice how you play. It's a cliche, but for sure, everything you put into a session is what you get out of it. And if you guys ever want to actually look how I train, there's actually like a full session on YouTube that my dad filmed of like the different exercises that I did, and you can see how tired I get, how out of breath I am, how much I'm sweating. You could see all that stuff to actually give you guys an idea on like what it does take to improve. So I guess like for just a quick example, this is something that this is a training exercise that I do all the time. All right, so check this out. So this is like the type of intensity that I do. So I'm pretending like there's a defender there every time. You can see the sweat on my back. I'm like, I've been doing this for a while, but it's basically like constant skill work. But I'm trying to make sure I'm ready each skill exactly as I do it in a game, because I know that the way I practice, the way I play. So I'm always pretending like there's a defender from the Timbers in front of me, or there's an LA Galaxy guy in front of me. I'm doing it exactly as I would. So that purpose and that intensity of the way you train is very important. I think you got muted, Brando.
Brando's muted.
Sorry, there you go. Adam, can you mute yourself? Sorry about that. So one thing that you brought up earlier, and I wanted to ask you about, was the importance of a coach. You said you've had a couple of coaches in your career at San Jose. Have you ever had a coach that really helped you out, or that you felt really changed you, and how?
Yeah, for sure. Matias Almeida completely changed me when it comes to, on the field. Like, he put me at right back. That was the first time I ever played that, because I think you have a future here. And, if one of the best coaches in the world or North America, whatever you want to call it, as soon as he says you have a future in a position, I'm like, you're probably right. Maybe I should start trying to learn from you. So that's why I learned Spanish, which has been a huge thing as well, or, you know, that's changed me as a person, I'd say. So for sure, the impact Matias Almeida has had on me and the rest of the team has been pretty incredible. And it just shows the type of impact coaches can have on people. And like my dad coached me for my whole life before I became a pro. And he would basically raise me on a soccer field. Like instead of like getting disciplined, you know, in the house sometimes, it was like I was literally like the way I acted on the field was like, don't do that. Like when I got cocky or lazy, it's like, no, don't do that. And then all of a sudden it set a whole program of how I should go about my life as well. You know, so I learned, you know, there's a saying where it's like I learned all about life with the ball at my feet. That's pretty much how this game has had an impact on me. And my dad was a coach that gave me a huge impact, and then Matias now as well.
I like that quote. I learned all about life with the ball at my feet. What was it about Matias that got you to open up, that got you to – was it just like his lore? Because I remember him as a player, and he was one of my favorites. Him and Cholo Simeone together, like the way that Argentina played, the hard-nosed way, was that it? Or was it just like his personality, the way he came across? And what was different about other coaches?
So I could write a book about what he did last year with our team. I mean, because we were one of the worst teams in Earthquakes history, and he came in, and then he tripled our win total, and now things are different. You know, teams are scared to play us, which is like a huge step forward. And to me, the most incredible part about that transition was that he came into the locker room when we were struggling, you know, like guys were hurting when it came to confidence and what we thought of ourselves as a team. And he came into that locker room. He's like, hey, I believe in you guys. Like, I want you guys to change this. We watched the games in 2018. We watched all the games. He's like, I think you guys are good enough to change this. And like that shows like a pretty incredible amount of like respect and love to actually believe in a group that, you know, only won 4 games an entire season. And so I was like, there's no way, this guy must be full of it. Like he's probably just going to cut all of us. Like we all didn't play well. So now like we're not going to have jobs. But he said that in the first meeting. And then he said that in the meetings in preseason. Then he said it all throughout the year as well. And I started realizing that it was the truth. And then he came in and actually he did that, you know, and it's been pretty amazing to see. So that type, like he chose to believe in me. And I think that was something that I wasn't always used to as a pro athlete. And that inspired me to then believe in myself and then to believe in him.
So that's really cool. And that's and you said that's why you learned Spanish. So was it mainly just to talk to him so you knew exactly what he was talking about?
Yeah, I thought, man, I'm being coached by the guy who's literally voted best coach in North America in 2018. I'm like, that guy's my head coach, and he doesn't speak English. So if I want to learn as much as I can from him, I'm going to have to be able to speak Spanish, because then I can talk to him on the side, and I don't have to have a translator there constantly. Because I want to have a real relationship with this guy who's had a huge impact on my career, on my life. So why not learn Spanish? I think it'd be such a waste to not be able to learn from a guy like him. So I did.
Well, it's pretty good. It's really, really good. Got to work on your accent a little bit, but overall, it's really, really good.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's definitely not perfect, but my goal was to just make sure I can learn and be conversational. And like I ended up doing an hour-long conversation with him on Instagram Live. That was a couple weeks ago, and that basically shows like, oh wow, like I'm getting there. I'm definitely not fully there, but I'm on my way.
I'll make sure to text you some phrases you can use when you're on the field, when you're playing, like Valeri or someone else.
Yeah.
So one thing that we've been doing, before I say that, so I'm going to open it up after this. I'm going to open it up to the kids to ask you questions. So remember, just raise your hand like this. Don't press any buttons, and I'm going to get a text from Arya. But so one thing that we've been doing is we had this presentation for the kids called Game Face, and it's all about making top players and how to be consistent and intense. And part of the exercise that we use is we choose 3 words to describe. We picture ourselves first as the player you want to be, right? And then you use 3 words to describe. One is an action word. So strong, quick, fierce, whatever action word you want. The second one is a player that you want to model yourself after. I think I know who yours is.
Yeah.
And then the last one is an animal that you also want to like have those characteristics of the best soccer player you can think of. So for me, when I was a kid, and even now as an almost 40-year-old man, mine was confident, Roberto Carlos, and an animal, and cheetah. Sorry, because I was always super quick. I have huge confidence issues, so that was like my most important thing because I always wanted to have skill on the ball, and I wanted to be creative. But if I didn't have confidence, those two weren't very good during the game. But so for me, when I was confident, I had those things. And Roberto Carlos for me was like the player I wanted to be. That the free kick with the outside the foot. I practiced my left foot like crazy because of him, and just the speed, confidence, all that. And then cheetah just because I like being fast. So what would yours be?
I would say I'd probably use the word clever. I'd like to be clever on the field because I've never been super strong. I mean, I'm fast, but I'm not. I'm like right in the middle of the pack. We do team races where we get tracked on our GPS, and I'm right in the middle. So I'm not like crazy fast. I'm not slow. I'm right in the middle. So I'm not super fast. I'm not super like crazy strong or anything like that. Where I'm just lifting a ton of weight. So I wouldn't say I'm like a cheetah or I'm like a lion, but I would say I could see myself as like a fox. So I like being clever. I'd want to be like a fox, clever like a fox. And then the guy I'd want to model myself off of is Ronaldinho for sure.
That's awesome. So that'd be clever, fox. I mean, clever Ronaldinho fox. That's really good. I like it. So I think the kids are being a little shy right now, but I'm going to go ahead and just start asking some people if they have questions. Then I usually have some pretty good ones. Let's start with Horacio.
Hi, I'm Horacio. Nice to meet you. Oh yes, sir. I was just wondering, like, who you think the new like future stars are gonna be, like, just around the world.
Future stars around the world. I haven't been paying too close attention. I think Mbappe, obviously, I mean, he's established himself already. I think he's going to be one of the best players in the world for sure. I mean, it's incredible what he can do with the ball and how fast he can move on the field as well. So he's up there. But I actually focus more on MLS. There's so many different things that go on that I like to just try to zero in on MLS. And I actually think Cade Cowell from Ballistic, I think he's going to be a great player. Like I've had the opportunity. He subbed into the game against Minnesota, and he was playing in front of me, and I'm happy for him. He's a great kid, and everyone like he's still so young, but I think he's gonna do really well for himself. So maybe in a couple of years we'll see him playing for some big teams, but we'll see. Never want to put too much pressure on him, but I'm really happy for what he's done so far.
All right, thank you.
All right, Nico has a question for you.
It's not really a question, but Matias Almeida is my neighbor.
Oh, really? That's funny. Hey, next time you see him, tell him I said hi. Tell him Tommy Thompson. He say hola.
Ben has a question for you.
So funny. He would crack up if you actually say that to him. I'm sure he would start laughing.
I have kind of 3 questions. One, have you ever been in the World Cup?
Yeah, that's a good question. I played in the under-20 World Cup. So it wasn't with the full national team, but I was with the under-20 national team. It was in New Zealand, all the way across the world. And I actually started in the quarterfinal game against Serbia. We actually ended up losing it in PKs. And then Serbia won the U20 World Cup. So it hurts a little bit thinking that we lost to the World Cup champions in PKs because I think we could have been the first U.S. team to ever win it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I had three. Have you been on a team with any well-known players?
Yeah, Chris Wondolowski with the Earthquakes. He's well known. Now, I mean, Matt Miazga is playing for. He's signed with Chelsea. Um, there's a couple other guys that have signed for some big teams as well. I'm trying
I
to.
think you're on that team with Zach Steffen too, right?
Zach Steffen, yeah, Zach Steffen's playing in the Bundesliga. So yeah, I've been playing. I've played with my fair share of pretty well known players. Jordan Morris, like with the homegrown teams, I played with everybody. So like Jordan Morris, um, Zardes, like all of those guys.
Yeah, and have you faced any well-known players?
Yeah, I played against like Zlatan, Schweinsteiger. I mean, we played against Manchester United twice, so Martial, Juan Mata. Played against Atletico Madrid, so like Koke. Played against Real in La Liga. So we play against teams from all over the world.
I think Horacio has another question for you.
Oh yeah, so during that one Man U game at Levi, were you the one that hit the bird in midair? Do you remember that?
Yeah, was it
Yeah,
first half or second half?
I don't remember, but I know it was. I think it was the first half, and I was at Levi.
I forgot. I remember. I know what you're talking about. I don't think it was me. I played the second half.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it was because I was at the game. I thought it was you.
Does anyone else have any other questions? All right. What was your best moment as a pro?
On the field or off the field?
Up to you.
I think one of my favorite moments has been the progression of this locker room and this team and seeing guys learning languages for each other to try to connect on the field. That's been something that's been pretty incredible to be a part of. And I've been trying to show everybody as best I can that it's possible. And that's why I tried to learn it as fast as I could. Like I came back from Mexico after like 2 weeks. I studied like 30 or 40 hours. And I started doing interviews like right away. After 2 weeks, I was able to do interviews in Spanish. It definitely wasn't perfect, still not perfect. But I just wanted to show everyone on the team, like, hey, guys, I'm not saying everyone needs to learn the language like I did. I'm just saying, hey, maybe we should all do a little bit more to try to connect to each other, connect with each other and understand each other. So I was trying to get all of the English speakers to learn a little bit Spanish. I was trying to get all the Spanish speakers to learn a little English. So I think to be a part of that that transition and to see Matias learning English and Wando speaking some Spanish and Christian Espinoza speaking English. I mean, it's been incredible to be a part of because it's bigger than soccer. You know, we're talking about the world, people from all across the world trying to work with each other and understand each other. To me, that's been pretty special to be a part of.
So it sounds like Matias made a family. Like everyone, all coaches always say we want to be part of a family, and I've had some coaches say that, and it wasn't a family. It just wasn't. I've been at clubs where they said it was a family. It wasn't a family. But when you're part of that, it you can tell. And it seems like you really like bought into that, and you're a big part of making this team a family. Do you think that your contribution has really helped a lot?
Yeah, I think everyone brings their own grain of sand, like Matias always says. And I think when it comes to performances, I mean, we've had some players do some incredible things. Like Christian Espinoza had a great season last season. And so he's contributed in all kinds of ways. You know, Wando, the incredible story that took place against Chicago on that rainy day. I mean, we've already shared some pretty amazing memories and like beating Toronto in Toronto, beating LA in LA. And we just have these special memories with each other. And that's where it starts. So maybe I helped with the language in my own way, but Shea Salinas has helped with how much he's learned as well. So everyone's done their part. And it started with Matias, like, believing in us. And Matias has had a huge impact. And like you said, he's done everything he could to build a family. And I didn't know that was possible in pro sports because of obviously how intense everything is. But he's done it. So it's cool. It's cool to be a part of it. And I'd say that's probably my biggest takeaway and my best moments in sports. I mean, I had scored against Atlanta in front of 50,000 people. Like, that was really cool too. But when it comes to this type of stuff, I think this is about life, and that's what I like a lot better.
Well, you talked about scoring. One of the questions the kids always like to ask is, what does it feel like to score a goal, especially like in Atlanta with 50,000 people?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. I've planned celebrations for years, waiting for moments like that. But as soon as the moment comes, you're just completely overwhelmed by emotion. So you can't. It's hard to even remember to do anything because it's just like pure adrenaline and joy. Like I said, I came into the league as a forward, so I thought I was going to be scoring goals left and right. And it took me 3 years to score a goal in MLS. And so that first goal against Atlanta in front of 50,000 people, I've been waiting for that for 3 years. So that's something that people don't realize. Like, they see me in highlights and like, oh, that's so cool. Like he might, that must be what his life's like. But it's like, no, I've put in a lot of work to just get that one goal. And that's what makes it so special.
Luke has a question for you.
What was the difference between playing college soccer and playing MLS soccer?
That's a good one. MLS, everyone's just like, at every level you go up, everyone just gets bigger, everyone gets faster, and everyone gets more skillful. So the speed of play changes as well. I'd say the biggest change for me was like the physicality of it, because I was always pretty skinny. And so coming into the league as a 145-pound forward and going up against like a guy like Omar Gonzalez, where he just feels like he can just eat you, I'd say that was the biggest adjustment. Definitely hit a wall with that, where I had to change my program. But yeah, no, it's interesting. Each level has their own differences, but I'd say the physicality of MLS was my biggest hurdle.
I know Jack has a question for you.
What's your favorite play of your career?
Favorite play of my career? Ooh. Maybe that Atlanta goal. See if I can pull it up so I can show you guys if you guys haven't seen it. Because it was like I've scored a couple other goals, but they weren't as cool as that one. I'd say in the USL I scored some pretty cool goals, but yeah, I would have to say that goal against Atlanta might have been my favorite play. But then there's been a couple like juggling tricks or dribbling tricks that I've done as well on the field, which have been kind of fun. But yeah, I'd say the Atlanta goal would be the best.
Okay, we have a question from Adam. Oh, there we go.
So that's me passing to Wanda. This is the Atlanta goal after this. That's my assist. But then this is where I scored a goal against Atlanta right here. Yeah, so it's upper 90 shot. Oh, but there's a different play here too. But yeah, there's been some good plays, but hopefully I got more to come.
Adam has a question for you. There, Adam? If not, okay, we can move on to Vaughn.
Adam added the question.
Vaughn, you there?
Oh yeah, I'm here. Okay, so what do you think is like the best attribute of a player, like speed or physicality or like passing or shooting?
I think skill work is. I think ball skills is the most important. And I mean, you look at guys like Ronaldo. Obviously, so strong, so fast. But it's like his footwork, that sets him apart, and it's Messi as well. I think that's the most important thing, and that's what I love about soccer is like you don't have to be blessed physically. Like you don't have to be 6 feet tall like you have to be in the NBA. You don't have to weigh 200 pounds like you have to be in the NFL. So with soccer, you just got to learn how to have a relationship with the ball. And so I would say the skills is the most important. It's also my favorite.
Okay, I guess I have one last question. It's a little tricky maybe for you. You grew up in Sacramento. you played for Sac Republic. Sac Republic's now joining. Are you looking forward to the rivalry, possibly going home? Like, what? How do you feel about that? Because it seems pretty cool, like, but you're like a San Jose guy now. So how do you feel about that?
I've lived in San Jose for 6.5 years, which is crazy to think about. It's my whole adult life. I've been here in San Jose. Ever since I was 18, I moved here. And I think a lot of ways, like you said, I started off as a kid, shy, didn't really know what to say or to think about everything that was happening. And it's almost like, I was raised through this organization, where I really became an adult and learned what I'm passionate about and how I want to go about my life. And instead of me learning that in college, I learned it with the Earthquakes, so it's a special place in my heart for this club. They gave me an opportunity, and I took it. So I'm excited for Sacramento. I think it's going to be awesome to have a Northern California rivalry. And I think anytime there's more teams around, kids will be more inspired and realize that there is a stadium in their backyard that they can go to and play in one day. So I'm excited, and we'll see what happens. I'm excited for that first game against them.
Oh, I think Ben has one last question for you.
Can I share that Atlanta goal on share screen?
No, because sometimes it doesn't work very well.
Yeah, it gets laggy, right?
Yeah, it gets really laggy.
That's why because I do coaching sessions, and whenever I do coaching sessions, I always just show my phone because it doesn't lag.
Yeah.
This screen is so laggy.
Actually, I have another 2 questions for you. You talk about Almeida a lot, and you talk about coaching. Do you think that you're going to go into coaching, when you're done and retired? And do you think that you're kind of going to be like a disciple of Almeida, how a lot of people are with Bielsa and other coaches like that?
Yeah, it was funny. I said, I told him in Cancun, I was like, algún día voy a ser un entrenador y and then I said, I forgot how I worded it, but I said basically, I'm going to coach against you. And because I told him I was like, tengo un cuaderno y estoy escribiendo todos los ejercicios ahí. I'm like, I have this notebook and I'm writing down all your exercises. And so I don't know. Well, it's funny. I said it as a joke, and he was laughing. We're all laughing about it. But yeah, no, for sure. My goal, whether I'm playing or coaching, I want to share my love for soccer, and so I'm just going to be probably trying to do that for the rest of my life. So whichever opportunities come my way.
Awesome. That sounds great. Once this is all over, maybe you can come see these kids, give them a little lesson, show them your skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll try to make it out to a game because I keep telling these kids they're so lucky to have a professional team in their own backyard. A lot of kids in the world don't have this, so we'll try to get out there as our teams and come cheer you on. But so everyone, unmute yourselves, give them a big thank you, and then we usually leave the same way when we leave our training. So I want to do that with you. So usually when we leave, one person gets up and puts their hands up and says ready, and everyone gets ready like this, and then they say 1, 2 and just clap twice. So
Cool.
Braden is our team captain for the 07, so I'm going to have him lead us out of here. Nice.
Ready. 1, 2.
All right, everyone say thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.